What's up, gang? It's AJ here, owner of Hedgehogs Trading. Just wanted to go over JRJC. I know the stock has um, been kind of wacky tabacky for quite some time now. Been trading sideways for a while. Honestly, it trades like shit. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I do still like JRJC a lot. Um, Throughout the course of the year, I do have a good amount of money in this stock, and I do think it'll pay out nicely at some point. So I'm just looking at. So let's scale it down to a monthly chart because I usually look at long-term charts to gauge the direction of a stock um, over a longer time frame. Because if you only use short time frames, like if you only use like daily charts or if you only use like hourly charts, it doesn't give you a whole picture of where a stock is headed over the long run, and you could easily get trapped in something that you don't want to get trapped in over the long haul. So I usually use long-term charts just to kind of guarantee that I'm in something that has a good trajectory over the long run, even if there is a lot of short-term volatility, as we're experiencing right now in the stock market. Um, my bets are highly in my favor if you find stocks that are curling up in the long run, even if there is short-term volatility due to whatever might be going on in the macro world. Um, so JRJC's monthly chart looks pretty good. It's consolidating, trading sideways. It's been doing that for a while, but JRJC has reclaimed this or is over this 20-day SMA. So I'm using simple moving averages for this study. But you can see JRJC is over this 20-day SMA, which is the orange line. And what JRJC is trying to do, it's actually trying to break this 50-day SMA, which is this purple dash line here. And you see it's making pretty great efforts to get through there. Um, this is There's a lot of resistance here, and algos generally use moving averages as leverage points, if I would say. So that's the reason why JRJC got halted at 13 the last couple days, um, the previous couple weeks, um, and that's probably because the 50-day SMA is right around $13. In the algos and the MMs were like, nah, we're not gonna let this stock run right now. It's not time yet. So you can see here that JRJC tried to break this 50-day SMA at 1286 on the monthly chart. Now, if you scale this down to the weekly chart, you can see that JRJC is trying to break this 200-day SMA on the weekly chart, which is at damn near the same price. So it's at 1280. So on the monthly chart, you can see that there's resistance here at 1286. And then if you go to the weekly chart, you can see that there's resistance here at 1279. So you can see how those moving averages are simultaneously being used as leverage points by MMs and algorithms. So that's why JRJC, in my opinion, got halted at the 13 level twice, and then it got as high as 12 this previous week, but then it ended up collapsing. In my opinion, MMs didn't want JRJC to run yet. They were like, nah, we're not letting this run. But even looking at JRJC's weekly chart, looks pretty bullish to me. It's over this 100-day SMA on the weekly chart. And you can see how this 50-day, this purple line, this is the 50-day SMA, this 20-day SMA, which is the orange line, and this 9-day SMA, which is this blue line. You can see how all of these moving averages are starting to collapse on each other. Just look, I mean, you can see all of these moving averages collapsing on the price, which to me is indicative that the stock is getting kind of tight. The price action is getting really tight, and it leads me to believe that there might be a squeeze ensuing soon as these moving averages start to collapse on each other. You can just see it's just a big discombobulation, just all over the place. Moving averages just making all types of weird, funny trajectories. So that to me is a sign that a squeeze might ensue. But yeah, looking at these long-term time frames, I'm very confident that JRJC will get a move in the future. Um, and they did get a compliance notice on. See if I can pull it up here. So they get a compliance notice on July 9th. Um, one of their chairmen was under investigation. So you can see it here. And then it said separately, um, the Beijing government is also looking into one of the subsidiaries of JRJC, which was a precious metals commodities brokerage, which got suspended in 2017. And the suspension of their commodities business in 2017 actually um, took it put a big it definitely took a toll on the company's revenue stream. And so here's the 2018 yearly report that they put out in 2019. So this is their 2019 20F filing. It's called a 20F filing that they released in 2019, but it goes over the previous year's um, financial statements. So it covers the year of 2018, but they put the report out the following year. Um, but here you can see in 2016, here is the gross revenue that they're bringing in from their financial services. This is in the year of 2016 when their commodities brokerage was still alive. Now they suspended their commodities brokerage in 2017. Look how drastic the numbers are once they suspend their commodities business, their commodities brokerage business for precious metals in the year of 2017. They lose damn near more than half of their revenue. And then in the year of 2018, they lose even more money. So you can see how the suspension of that business has taken a toll on the company. But in the July 9th press release, it says that the government is requesting information on the commodities brokerage business that got suspended in 2017. So I'm inclined to believe that they might start reopening their commodities business. And commodities like gold and silver, oil, are looking to do well in the future due to inflation here in the United States. So it only makes sense that JRJC would like to reopen their commodities brokerage business so that they can start to profit from that. And that would be also good for the Beijing government and its constituents to have some skin in the game in commodities as it's about to soar due to inflation. Um, so that's my take. In this July 9th press release, it seems negative, but when you actually read it and understand it, it's to me it's neutral. If anything, it's not really telling you anything. Yeah, one of the board of directors is under investigation, but you don't know what he's under investigation for. You know, you could be under investigation for something good, or for something that's just providing more information on something. This doesn't mean that he committed anything wrong. It just means they're just investigating him over something. So to me, this is neutral. And same thing with investigating the commodities brokerage business and looking over the financial reports. It's neutral. You can't really gain anything from this. Um, but there is a safe harbor statement agreement, and knowing that um, JRJC has to be in compliance by November, November 21st, I believe. This press release has a safe harbor statement that will likely address their compliance issues in the future. So if you come down here, it says, among other things, this release contains the following forward-looking statements regarding liquidity, sources of funding, including our ability to continue operating as a going concern. So a company that is operating as a going concern has liquidity issues, they have funding issues. So they need to find a way to raise cash in order to meet their compliance requirements. So this statement is addressing that. So in my opinion, JRJC may be looking to reinstate their commodities exchange business or the commodities brokerage business in order to meet their going concern issue. Because the revenue that they will get back from reinstating their commodities brokerage service would easily make them a more liquid company again, and it should give them enough revenue to meet their deficiency requirements in order to stay listed on the stock exchange. And like I said, here are the numbers. In 2016, this is when they had their commodities brokerage business. You can see the numbers here. And then when they suspended it, you can see how bad the numbers are, or how much money they lose from that. So, in my opinion, it only makes sense that they reinstate it. They might not release any PR about it. Maybe they say it in their next earnings report. Maybe they release better numbers, and maybe they tack on that they made more money from reinstating it. Who knows? This is just my opinion. But I do think JRJC will do well in the future, even though it has been trading quite crappy um, for a while. And like in my opinion, charts don't lie, you know. So if the charts are looking good, then more than likely the stock is going to do well too. And JRJC, you know, especially looking at this monthly chart, um, you can see that JRJC is trying to break this 50-day simple moving average on the monthly chart. And you know, at some point, you're going to end up breaking through this. You know, like if you bang on the door enough times, you're going to end up breaking through the door. So it's been knocking on this 50-day EMA door or this 50-day SMA door, you know, for quite some time now. And eventually he's going to break through that. And I think over these next several months, is going to start making its way through this. And then it's going to want to work its way up to this 100-day SMA where there will be resistance there. You can see that JRJC has had resistance there quite a few times. So quite a few times, JRJC has tried to break through. So this is back in December of 2017. They tried to break through. Then they tried to break through in July of 2020. And I think as we progress, JRJC is going to end up breaking through the 100-day SMA and approaching this 200-day SMA in the $50 range. So I do think humbly that JRJC will see 40, 50 bucks. And I think it has an opportunity to do that this year, given that JRJC is a micro float and this easily could pump with any good news or any good catalyst. But you just got to be patient, and that's the name of the game. And especially in volatile markets like this, you kind of want to find good plays and just ride them out rather than bounce around and potentially lose all your money or lose a lot of money. I mean, you know, it's definitely okay to set money aside for day trading and stuff like that. I'm all for that. But you know, you want to really get in the habit of looking for good long-term plays and or looking for really good swing plays and just riding those through rather than just spontaneously hopping. I call it stock hopping in and out of tickers, just looking for the next big thing. And your emotions will get the best of you, especially when you might buy something one day and it goes down the next day. You might buy something one week and it goes down next week, and you'll be so quick to hop in and out, in and out, in and out. You really won't make any money that way, and more oftentimes than not, you end up losing money. So to me, that's just the easy way to the doghouse. You don't want to be in that situation. But yeah, I'm still very confident in JRJC. I've been doing more and more DD on it, and I'm just more confident in it. Um, Morgan Stanley does have a majority, or does have a pretty large holding size in this company. Let's see here. Let's see, I'm trying to see. So yeah, Morgan Stanley. It says that they have. So yeah, right here for 2021-02. So February 10th, Morgan Stanley had as many as 6 million shares of JRJC, but this is ordinary shares. This is ordinary shares, not ADSs. And see, Fintel has a problem sometimes disclosing numbers correctly, and that's why you can't even really trust Fintel sometimes because they butcher numbers. But so let's go here. So JRJC, so Morgan Stanley has a 5% ownership in JRJC. So here are the total number of shares of ordinary shares that JRJC has. They have 122 million, approximately 122 million ordinary shares out. So I'm gonna take this number and I'm gonna copy it here. All right. Now Morgan Stanley owns about 6 million of those shares. I'm gonna copy and paste this here, and bang. All right. So then I'm gonna divide what Morgan Stanley has by the total number of outstanding shares. Multiply that by 100, and you see that JRJC, in fact, does have a 5% stake in the company, or did at the time of the filing. Um, so that's the reason why it says that Morgan Stanley has 6 million shares. But let's see, 50 shares, one ADS, one ordinary share, or one ADS is represented by 50 ordinary shares. So Morgan Stanley has about 6 million shares of JRJC. But when you divide that by 50, so they have about 6 million shares, 6 million ordinary shares of JRJC. But when you convert that to ADSs, they only have about 122,000. So when you go on the Fintel and you see what JRJC owns, they own about 122,000. Now they sold some of their shares, and I think they sold some of their shares because they wanted to relinquish 5% ownership in the company. So they sold just enough to relinquish their 5% ownership in the company. I think if you have more, if you have 5%, if you have 5% or more shares of the company, I think you get special voting rights, and I think Morgan Stanley might have wanted to forfeit those voting rights or some of those benefits from having 5% ownership in the company, or maybe they had to pay fees or something. So I think they sold a little bit, but they still own a good amount of their shares. And the fact that Morgan Stanley even owns this company, to me, is pretty telling. Um, so, And then here's the insider ownership of JRJC. All this here. So once again, Fintel is wrong with their numbers about insider ownership. So here is the total ownership amongst its directors, 30%. So JRJC has 30% insider ownership. And then it has ownership from IDG Technology. So this guy is this guy here. Zhao, I would want to say. I'm just saying his last name. So you can see that Zhao, one of the directors, he was a CEO, but he stepped down. He's the one under investigation. But he stepped down. He has about 27% stake in the company. So him and all the directors have about 31% stake in the company. And then IDG Technology has 5%. And these are other people that have big stakes in the company. And this is not including Morgan Stanley's stake. So with Morgan Stanley's stake, these shareholders and the directors, this is about 50 something, like 55% ownership. So there's a lot of ownership here in the stock too for JRJC. But if you go on Fintel or on Finviz, they only say it's 11% insider ownership, but that's definitely not true when you go look at the filings. That's why you can't trust some of the stuff that these websites are saying, because it can cloud your judgment. So, um, yeah, just looking at it from a charting standpoint and from a fundamental standpoint, JRJC looks really good to me. It just moves very slow because it's a micro float, and then hedge funds and MMs can manipulate stocks in a certain way until they're ready to let it move. So until JRJC is ready to put out a catalyst, or until the MMs are ready to let JRJC move, they're going to continue to manipulate it, let it trade slow. Whenever it gets a pop, they'll try to sell it off very quickly because it's not time for JRJC to run yet. When JRJC has its time and its moment, you'll see a ton of volume come in, and it'll make a monster move, kind of like Newegg or TCAT, or some of these other low float plays. Um, so you know, I do believe a big move is coming for JRJC by the end of the year. You just gotta be patient for it. Um, but like I said, this is just my opinion. You always gotta factor in the risk of buying stocks like this. It may not work out the way I foresee it, but I do my DD when I have time to, and I always try to reaffirm what I'm seeing, even though there's a lot of manipulation, because manipulation can distort your your understanding of things, and you just have to take time off to see past that. Take time to study. Take time to do due diligence on what you believe in, and and go from there. But in my opinion, JRGC looks pretty ready to go, and I'm always looking at these new monthly candlesticks. So even if JRGC's monthly candlestick for July doesn't look that good, maybe in August we might get a better monthly candlestick. Um, Maybe the next monthly candlestick will be green, and it might push up against this 50-day SMA, and then maybe so August might push up on this 50-day SMA, and then maybe in September we end up ripping all the way up to 30, or all the way up to 40 or 50, depending on what happens. But you can tell that JRJC is trying to break through this 50-day SMA on the monthly chart, and at some point, in my opinion, it's gonna get through it. They can manipulate it on a day-to-day basis, and it's gonna frustrate you on a day-to-day basis. But once you look at it from a long-term perspective and you see where this is headed, then in my opinion, this is about ready to go. So once again, I just wanted to share my thoughts on JRJC. Um, I know I've been silent on it. I know it's been pretty dead in the water for the most part, um, excluding these last several weeks. But volume precedes price action, and I think these upticks in volume that we've seen these last couple of weeks is a good sign that something is coming. And like I said, you can see JRJC is trying to break through this moving average. Every time it gets a volume spike, it's trying to break through, it's trying to crack through it, and eventually I think it's going to end up breaking through that and heading on to the next moving average, or on to the next price target. Um, but these are my thoughts on JRJC. And thank you for listening, and have a good afternoon.